Hello, and welcome back to Super Mario Mayhem. In the last video, we discussed about the Famicom, and today, we'll be playing one of the launch titles for the Famicom. We're playing more Donkey Kong. Surprise! Yep, we're still not done with Donkey Kong. But I would say that this game excuses the long Donkey Kong stream of games that I've been playing, because this is one of the more important ports of Donkey Kong, as it is the game that was the inspiration for the creation of the Famicom. It's been noted that the Famicom is designed to play a near-perfect game of Donkey Kong, but if you are like me who played this version of the game more than the actual original arcade, then you know that that statement might not be as true as it can be. But without further ado, let's jump into the game. So as you can see, snow opening cutscene, and we're just in the game. As you can see, the sprites are very faithful to the arcade release. Mario looks like Mario. Donkey Kong looks just as he did in the arcade game. It's pretty accurate graphic-wise. Obviously, this port isn't free from the screen crunch issue, where the stages are much more smaller when compared to the arcade version, because they had to fit all of it in a TV screen. Yeah, there's, sorry, I'm trying to think of something to say about this game. It's just, there are, a lot of differences between this version and the arcade version, as I alluded to with how, if you play this game and you're familiar with this version of the game, and you compare it with the arcade version, you can see that the statement of it, the Famicom becoming a system that could accurately make a complete game of Donkey Kong, is not really true. For starters, the levels are much more easier. I say the difficulty overall is a lot easier than the arcade version, but that could also just because I'm starting on the Game A version of the game, which is significantly easier than the Game B version. I think Game B is the setting you want if you want a more arcade accurate feel, as in it gets harder quicker. But yeah, but another thing you might know is that the second stage, the 50-meter stage, is not in this version, which is quite odd considering that Nintendo wanted this to be the near perfect version. So it's kind of weird that they cut that stage, but you know, I can excuse that. You know, it's new technology, they were still figuring out how to work it out, you know. But that's not to say that this is a bad port, far from it. This is a pretty good port. In fact, it's the port that Nintendo would often re-release over the arcade version. I think the reason why they released this version over the arcade version is I've heard that there's like some legal troubles when it comes to re-releasing the original arcade Donkey Kong. If you haven't heard, the developers of Donkey Kong weren't actually Nintendo. They were more of like the game designer and publisher of the game. The actual game was like developed by some electronics company. I don't remember the name, but I'll probably put it up here in post. But yeah, I think it's because of they technically made the game itself, the arcade game of Donkey Kong, that trying to re-release the arcade version on future platforms is a little bit difficult, and it wasn't until like recently with like the Hamster arcade archives that they were able to do it. I would assume that they got like complete full rights to the arcade game, but yeah, for whatever reason, that's probably the more logical reason as to why the NES version gets ported more often than the arcade version, is because Nintendo like completely developed this version. Again, I could be wrong. I'm not sure about the whole story, but from what I can recall, that's what I remember. So I've already completed like two loops of the game. As I said, the Famicom version is a lot more easier to like complete more loops in than the arcade version. I assume that part of that is because they had to cut one stage from the port, but you know. I think there was like a later re-release of the NES version for like, I think Donkey Kong's 25th anniversary or something like that, where they did include the cut stage. I'm not sure if I will actually be playing that version or not, but I don't think so, because I think that improved version counts as Virtual Console, and I said in the introduction video that I wouldn't be playing any Virtual Console games because it's basically just an unchanged port from the original. There's no real changes other than potential reduced flashing for games where flashing lights are a thing, and I just, you know. But yeah, that is Donkey Kong for the Famicom/NES. Overall, it is a pretty good port. It demonstrates how accurate it is to the arcade game, but at the same time, not really, because they had to cut a whole stage from the game. But yeah, this is the version that you will most likely be seeing on most Nintendo consoles because it's the most re-released version. But yeah, that'll be it for Donkey Kong on Famicom and NES. Join me next time and we'll play the other launch title that released with the Famicom. I'll see you next time.